Welcome. Dr. Stephen Hobbs here from the International Mentoring Community, sharing an introduction to the upcoming video you're going to be watching. It's about integrating the concepts and approaches of helping with mentoring. It's a broad look through 7 statements about this connection. However, what we do is we bring to life a little bit more about the mentoring approach. And remember, at any time, if there's anything we can do to help out to broaden your understanding of this connection, this integration, then please leave a comment with the video wherever you see it. Also, on YouTube, it would be great if you would subscribe, hit the bell that's beside it so you can receive more notifications. And of course, we love the likes and the comments because we'd like to keep this conversation going. Doug and I have been having a conversation around this connection between the words mentoring and helping. Now, there was an author at one point in time, Carl Weick, who talked a lot about sense making and making sense. And he reminded me of another author, which is Edgar Schein, who did a lot of work around organizational culture, workplace culture. And he wrote a couple of books outside of the culture series that he had. And one of them was about humble inquiry, which I found fascinating. And it's woven into his next book, which was helping. So I said to Doug, I said, I sort of synthesized some ideas out of this helping book. Why don't we have a conversation about the connection between helping and mentoring? And we're going to use these 7 connective statements. And I said, that's where we could go with this. And he said, sure, let's jump on a call. And here we are. So I'm just going to share one of the emails that we sent back and forth. So you can see there is the thumbnail. And here are the 7 statements, and we'll come back to those. But I just wanted to just connect a little bit here at the end of this. So again, the book is stimulated by Helping 2011 by Edgar Schein. And what's of interest here, it's really about our connection where helping and mentoring are about fundamental human relationships. Now, they're in the workplace, but they're also, this helping and mentoring can take place in a lot of other locations as well, but we're just going to link it more back to the workplace. And it comes from the place of basic relationships that move things forward. And mentoring really is about moving things forward. Helping is about moving things forward. So that's why there is this sort of connection that we saw. And it's really about these relationships, while they're situational, we're looking at this notion of effectiveness and relevance. And that's why we came up with this notion of the integration of helping and mentoring. And Doug and I decided to do it in the following way, is that because Doug has a very strong practice, because he continues to mentor where I do it every once in a while because I'm more into the certification story and working on some other aspects to do with the international mentoring community. Doug is deep into this notion of mentoring. So I'm going to sort of bring the statement to the surface and then have a conversation with Doug about maybe a story, a connection to see where we go. And I will add my 2 toonies worth from Canada into what's going on here as well. So from a helping mentoring, it works better when, in either helping or mentoring, is when the helper and the helpee, the giver, receiver, mentor-mentee, are ready. So if you're going to be helping someone as a helper or you're going to be mentoring someone as a mentor, then both the mentor-mentee, helper-helpee have to be ready for that conversation. Doug, thoughts?
So when I look at that statement and the aspect of being ready, that for the most part, is the commitment to a relationship, the commitment to building. Like in our earlier conversation, we talked about trust and trustworthiness, is to be able to be committed to that journey where we're going to build trust and continue to move forward. And if we're not ready to do that, then how can I, as a helper, how can I help you move forward or deal with some of the things that you're dealing with?
So we could add the word able and willing there. So mentor-mentee, helper-helpee are ready, able, and willing. If we want to just add a little bit more to that, would that be fair?
That would be fair, yes.
Okay. So really, it's about the both people truly understanding, and let's just stick with the mentor part of this, so as not to keep saying mentor-mentee, helper-helpee. We'll just stay with mentor-mentee now. Is that they have to be ready, in other words, be knowledgeable what it means to be a mentor-mentee and what a mentoring is all about. They have to be able to engage in this mentoring arrangement relationship, and they have to be willing, is that their head, heart, and hands are present, ready to go. Let's take a look at the next one. The mentoring relationship, the same as the helping relationship, is perceived as fair and impartial. So the relationship that the mentor and mentee has must be perceived by both as being fair and impartial. Thoughts with that one, Doug?
Well, what jumps to mind right out of the starting blocks is the term bias. And if we're trying to create that impartial relationship, we need to be able to manage our biases. And in essence, as I tell people, you need to be able to, as the mentor or the mentee, you need to be able to check those at the door in order for us to be able to move the relationship forward. And then from a fairness perspective, um, the the commitment to the relationship needs to be fair for both people. The focus on the journey needs to be fair for both people, as well as if we look at it from an action outcome perspective, is that the action that both of us are going to put into the relationship needs to be fair, as well as being able to recognize the outcomes that are going to come from that relationship.
So this notion of fair and impartial, this bias, I think is true. We've got to really be aware of our biases as we walk in. From a mentor's perspective, this fair and impartial is don't come in with something set, ready to go. I'm going to make a difference, all right? Because you really have got to listen to the mentee's questions, what it is that they're looking for, what's their intention about what they want to get out of this mentoring arrangement. And therefore, to be open to letting that unfold for the benefit of both. Because really, we have to remember that the mentor benefits from this connection as well. And sometimes we forget that is because, well, I'm the mentor. I've got, there's expertise. I'm going to no, just settle down a little bit. And I recognize that it goes both ways. And in a sense, both have to be fair and impartial when they enter into that arrangement. Anything you want to add to that part?
No, I think that was good.
Okay. The mentor is using the correct mentoring approach, just like the helper would. So the notion is mentor is using the correct mentoring approach. Thoughts from a practice perspective?
We typically encourage people what we try to be able to do is to give, and I know I do this when I'm doing workshops and so on and speaking engagement webinars and all that, is we want to be able to provide the people with the tools that they need in order to be able to make a difference, to be able to work with people, having some sense or some concept of what are some of the best practices, what are some of the best ways to be able to, number one, build the relationship, and then from there, using lived experience and a number of other techniques to be able to bring value to that relationship by making sure that we're, and the word correct is we've had conversations about that one before as well, and I want to be able to say that it may not be correct, but it is what is more than likely the best possible approach based on what I'm hearing from the mentee as far as what their needs are.
Yeah, the use of the word correct here is to replace the word right, because this notion of right or wrong. And the correct
Right.
is what's appropriate to that situation is the approach that you're going to take for this. The idea is it's not that there is a mentoring approach, there's a correct or an appropriate approach for that arrangement. That's where we're getting to this, is that there's not one helping approach. There are what is going to help that person at that point in time, the same as with the mentor-mentee kind of idea. And I think that needs to unfold sometimes from a gut level. You can think it through, but sometimes it's, from a heart gut kind of level as well. The mentor realizes everything the mentor says or does is an initiative that determines the future of the mentoring arrangement. So whatever the mentor says or does influences the mentoring arrangement, influences the mentee. It's the same as the helper. This idea that you're a role model. If you're inconsistent in your behavior about what's taking place, you're inconsistent in the conversation that is taking place, you're giving incorrect information, you're giving things that are not accurate, you show up late to the meeting, then that will determine the future of the arrangement. Will the mentee stick around? Thoughts?
No, I agree with what you've sketched out. The other part that sort of jumps to the forefront for me is the aspect of sharing my lived experience from just that, from the lived experience, and not wanting it to become sort of the prescribed approach that we're going to take going forward to deal with a particular situation. Because at the end of the day, what I want that person to be able to do is to be able to critically think their way through some of the challenges or all of the challenges that they have. So I can have a lot more influence in how we make that happen, or I can be more of that guide, that trusted advisor that we're looking for in this particular situation, versus, I'm the gray-haired old sage on top of the mountain, do as I say, and everything will be all right. Well, no, it won't.
Because what we have to remember in the mentoring relationship arrangement, similar to the helping one, is if we say things like, well, that's not a big problem, or that's not a major issue, we can deal with that like a snap crackle pop kind of idea, and the person sitting there looking at it, that initiative, that saying about how we're going to deal with it may lead to some difficulties later on. And we have to be aware that what we say and what we do as a mentor, you've got to pay particular attention, because it does influence the future of the arrangement. All right, next one, number 5 here. Mentoring starts with a formal inquiry or a formal inquiry as fits the situation. Now, Doug knows I love to play with words. So what I'm after here is informal inquiry spelled with an EN, That's usually the notion is that the inquiry is more informal. That's why it's informal inquiry versus a formal inquiry with an IN. What that is talking about is, I'm here because I need to get something quickly. So we might talk about the informal inquiries. I just want to explore, discover what's possible in our mentoring arrangement. Or I may be there saying, I would like to get this specific information. I'd like to get it from your lived experience. And we may only be together for a month versus the exploration discovery one. We might be together for 6 months, a year. And it has this notion of informal, formal. So it sort of then says it influences the kind of inquiry, the kind of questions that might be asked. Thoughts about that one?
Well, the one thing that sort of jumped to mind for me was, and it's more targeting the words informal and formal, was I sort of likened that to informal mentoring and formal mentoring, and where the outcomes may be somewhat different depending upon which approach that you were to take, whether it be formal or informal. And I think it's driven, typically driven by the mentee, but can be driven by the mentor. And the other part of that is the aspect of, it depends on what best fits the needs or requirements of the mentee themselves.
Yeah, as it fits the situation, the
Right.
conversation that you're having. I'm bringing this one up is because I know that when you're helping another, that you can go at it from a little bit more laid back. I just want to explore this, or I can come at it and go, okay, if this is what's happening and I can help you, then let's get to it. All right. The same thing in mentoring is we sometimes will have a laid back, or we can go right at it. So I just wanted to bring that to the surface, having read the book about helping, is that it isn't always like laid back, or it isn't always right at it. That's why there's the or here. And you could say informal inquiry, formal inquiry, or both.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you build this up, as you build your practice up, and I know Doug is great at this, is that he would engage in both. And I see his
Definitely.
head nodding and
Yeah, definitely.
nodding. Yeah. Okay. So the next one is the mentor ensures the mentee owns the issue, just like the helper does. And I'll just sort of leave it at that because I think there's a lot that you can say about this one, and maybe even a story you can share, Doug.
The big thing for me, owning the issue, comes back to critical thinking, and it's primarily driven by that. And one of the things that I think that we try to do is we try to, our willingness or wanting to be able to help people or mentor them sometimes too far, where we're taking away their ability to be able to, number one, be accountable and own the issue, and number two, to be able to grow with their problem solving and critical thinking skills. But the easy, one of my best examples is mentoring an individual who is looking for career development guidance. So about, if I'm in I'm in job A, and I look on the internet and I see job B. So I decide, ooh, I really like that. So I'm going to go ahead and apply on job B. And then I end up where I get actually interviewed for job B. And now I have to make a decision. Do I stay in A or do I go to B? And so then I go to my mentor and say, can you just tell me what I should do? No, I can't. And you own the outcome of this. And if what ends up happening is there becomes a shift of accountability, where it will shift back to the mentor if they say, well, if it was me, I would do this, or you should just go ahead and do this. And as soon as I make those statements, I have taken the accountability away from my mentee, and I've assumed it. And
Yeah.
that's not what we want.
Right. Sometimes what happens is a staff member might come to their manager leader and say, you know, I've got this issue, and the manager leader just says, okay, well, I'll take care of it. That doesn't help either, right? A mentee comes to the mentor and says, well, I've got this issue, and the mentor says, well, this is how you deal with it. Okay, what's the next topic? That's not going to be helpful, because that's to that critical thinking, that's to the ethical decision making that the mentee needs. The same thing applies in the helper-helpee, right, perspective. Okay, the helpee says, okay, this is what's going on, and the helper just says, well, just do this and this and this. Well, again, it's not necessarily going to work out. Sometimes it might in either of those three situations, but more times than not, it doesn't work out the way that you would like it to work out. But herein also is the element of empathy, right? Is, yes, we're talking about it, but I'm not going to own that, but I'll empathize with what's going on for you, but I'm not going to take it home at the end of the day. All right. I might take home what might be some other ideas that we can talk about when we meet next, but I'm not going to take on the energy of the issue. I'll just empathize with what's taking place at this juncture in our conversation. Okay. The next one is really, really important. And I've seen people stumble over this one. Is that when you're a mentor, you don't have all the answers for the mentee. And one of the great things about a mentor-mentee relationship is you go, as a mentor, you know, I really don't have the complete answer for that. Why don't we both go take a look, whether it's, let's pull out the computer and let's do a little Google searching here, or searching whichever way that you go at it, go to YouTube, whatever it might be. Or when we get back together, I'll have gone and done a little bit of research. You go do a little research, we'll compare it, and then we can educate each other, which is the beauty of this notion of this collaborative alliance that then gets set up. Because I know, and I learned the hard way, I don't know everything, and trying to bluff my way through it does not help either the mentor or the mentee, because I got called on my BS, and I never did that again. Never did that again. I would rather say I don't know, and let's go find it. Thoughts?
Well, it comes back to the definition of a two-way trusted relationship where we're both going to learn and grow personally and professionally. So if I, as the mentor, don't have the answers to the question, I may very well assign that as homework and ask my mentee to, why don't you've asked this question? I think this is, and sometimes I don't even allude to the fact I don't have the answer. I just say that, as part of your growth, I think here's a good place for us to get you to do some research on how you might be able to deal with a particular situation a little bit better, a little bit differently. And by doing it that way, then we've engaged them in that critical thinking process.
That's a great segue piece in terms of how you just did that. That was a great tip. Thank you for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these were just 7 elements that I distilled out of the book Helping, and I certainly would recommend that you read it. And I'd also encourage you to read the book Humble Inquiry. It comes from the perspective a little bit of the 7th one here, which sort of says, well, it actually connects 5, 6, and 7. And it's really about knowing that you can learn from others, you don't have the answers for everything, and that you can work with the other person to be able to get the answers that are necessary, and explore and discover together. Because in a sense, that's just another way of talking about helping each other. So that's where I saw this connection between helping and mentoring in such a strong way from this book. Now, as we start to look towards closing this off, Doug, is there anything about this notion of helping and mentoring that you want to share with everyone to sort of bring some closure to what's taking place?
The when I was going back over a lot of this material, one of the things that jumped to the forefront for me was the aspect of the journey mentor and the whole concept of where the journey mentor can play a part or a role in helping those who are suffering from mental health challenges and post-traumatic stress and all of those things. And it helped it helped me drive home, and for my own sake, it just helped me drive home a little bit more around the role of the journey mentor and how the aspect of helping, whether it be helping them through the certification process or dealing with, the mental health side of things, there is definitely the tie between mentoring and helping to that role, that function as a journey mentor.
I have to laugh at the moment because I forgot about that connection because I'm so deep into preparing all the certification storyline, and Doug is in the middle of starting to do his own self-assessment against the journey mentor. So, duh, that would make perfect sense. So thanks for bringing that up because I would have went right by. So that's great. So if I can, I'll add to that as well now that when Doug brought, from his deep practice perspective, this notion of how mentoring assists with the mental illnesses, I will call heart illnesses, gut illnesses as well, right? And how we might be able to use our mentoring insights and therefore develop more of this journey mentor, which we initially thought was for helping people to go through the certification process to get their certificate of competence mentor. I just went, yes, it's like another one of those, yeah, right? This is an important element of our today's world. And again, we're shooting this May 2020. There is a lot of helping that can take place. And if we're able to connect it to mentoring and develop the mentoring approach, and more people come to understand this educating approach, then I think we will be doing a great service from an international mentoring community. So with that, folks, thanks very much. The 7 statements, what you saw will actually be in the show more notes below the video. And we'll also put some links in there if you wanted to follow up with us. Also, if you're seeing this, I would encourage you to hit the subscribe button, the little bell that's beside it so you get notifications that continue to come in. We certainly appreciate the likes, but we love the comments. So if you could share comments with us to further this conversation, which is why this is being brought out as part of the community conversation on mentoring on May the 20th. So with that, take care, everyone. Thanks for watching the video. We have an ask of you. Make sure you click the subscribe button and click the bell beside subscribe so you can receive more notifications of the videos that we're loading up. And like the video, and especially if you could comment your insights. We would enjoy learning from you. Take care.